Welcome into the CHGO Blackhawks podcast presented by PointsBet. Use promo code CHGO when you sign up and you'll get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. I'm Jay Zawaski. With me here in studio, Mario Tirabassi. Our buddy Greg Boysen is at the United Center. He will join us shortly after the Hawks fall 3-0 to the Detroit Red Wings in a game that's going to look like a lot of games are going to look this year.
Similar.
Through 40 minutes, we were calling it the Alex Stalock game, and then the wheels sort of came off in the third. But look, if you watch this game on TV, you were treated to Patrick Sharp, which is never a bad thing. But this is how you can expect Hawks games to look this year. And obviously, the Hawks did not have a full-strength roster. It was Jonathan Toews, it was Lucas Reichel, and a bunch of fourth-liners, basically. Detroit had some of their better players in. They had a better lineup again. But as the season goes on and the Hawks are playing at full strength and their opponents are doing the same, you're going to see some games. This Hawks team is gritty. They're scrappy. The system will keep them in games. They just don't have the firepower to match up with pretty much anyone in hockey. So you're going to have these frustrating nights where they play okay. When you watch, you're not angry. They're not pissing you off, but it's just the pucks are not going in. They just don't have the talent. And games like tonight are what a lot of the games in 2022-23 are going to look like.
Yeah, I think once you stack up rosters, full strength, all your NHL players on the same team at once, for the Blackhawks against pretty much every team in the NHL besides maybe the Coyotes, you're going to be outmatched. And yeah, I mean, for tonight at least, like you said, it was basically Toews and Reichel and Dylan Secura were your most skilled forwards.
That's not great.
Everything else, every other player for the forward group was basically just someone who's fighting to not be in the AHL. And yeah, I mean, they were physical. It was, Alex Stalock had a great game by all accounts. It's just there's only so much he can do, especially or even just in a preseason. There's only so much that he can do. Like, this guy's played one NHL game in the last 2 calendar years. So it's not something that, you're going to have a guy like a Marc-Andre Fleury or anything like that come and steal a game. Like, you can get a quality effort out of Alex Stalock, and he's still going to give up 2-3 goals. And it's a point we talked about on yesterday with our crossover episode. The firepower is just not there for the Blackhawks to, outscore teams on a nightly basis. And even when you get a really good goalie performance where, it's 1 or 2 goals given up on 30, 40 plus shots, whatever it ends up being, would they have enough to force overtime or to get a win? More often than not, no, they're not. So yeah, I mean, it's tough. You never like losing to the Red Wings, whether it's a regular season, preseason, playoffs, or whatever. But I think you kind of just you look at it, and this is, like you said before we went on the air here, this is a good practice for us in picking out the positives out of the heap that this game ended up being.
Yeah, and there were some positives. And the guy I want to start with tonight, and I'm sure his name will come up when we do our fourth start of the game later on, is Boris Kachuk. And it's a guy I called out for his performance in the last game. He was an absolute non-factor in the last game he played. Tonight, he was one of the better Blackhawks, but takes a puck on the foot and goes back to the locker room. So that's not great. But it was good to see him kind of get the message that, hey, I need to compete. I need to earn a job here. I've got to make my presence more felt. And he absolutely did that. I thought he had a good game. Jujhar Khaira continues to impress me in the preseason. He looks to be in great shape. He looks to be motivated. He's going to get more chances this year with probably some better players because he's going to be on the roster. So I think he stood out. I like Jack Johnson's game. So he just had some stability back there with a bunch of young defensemen. There were, and like you said, Alex Stalock played well for the better part of 40 minutes, and it just got away from him. So, look, there's going to be these positive takeaways as the season goes on. And, again, I find it hard watching this game. I was there at the United Center for the first 2 periods, then came back here to our studios for the third, and it's just they're competing. They're playing hard. For the most part, they're in the right places. They're doing the right things. It's just a talent issue. Mm-hmm. And I hope that when fans watch this team this year, they recognize what they're seeing, right? Everyone knows it's a rebuild. Everyone knows they're going to be bad. But I don't think, say for a game, of course there's going to be, every team goes through this every year, an 8-0 loss or the wheels fall off. But for the most part, they're going to be competitive in the games they play. They're going to lose the vast majority of them, but I hope it makes it more enjoyable and more palatable for Hawks fans this year, because it's not going to look like the Jeremy Colliton Blackhawks.
There were times in the last few seasons, and especially at the beginning of last year, where you could see, as you're watching the game, the body language of the team, especially when before Colliton was fired, those first 12, 13 games, whatever it was, you could see those last few games that were coached by him, just the body language of most of the team. And especially guys, some of the star players like Jonathan Toews and Patrick Kane, like you could see it on their face and the way that, they come off the ice and it just looks like they're, going through the motions, and the fire of that game wasn't there for them. And I think this roster is as Kyle Davidson has put his stamp on it, is going to be like, hey, we might be out down 3-0, 3-1, 4-1, whatever it is, but you're still going to get the top competitiveness. The GAF meter is going to stay high with this team as a whole, which is what you want to see. You don't want to see players checking out, especially in a season that is going to be full of tough games.
Yeah. I think you said it well yesterday on our crossover podcast. That we had a lot of people listen to that, by the way. Got a lot of feedback on that episode.
That was fun.
You said that there were moments last year where you'd be like, the Hawks are going to get scored on in 5, 4, 3. Like, you could feel that.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you knew it was coming. I'll say this, though. Here's a bit of a concern. We're in preseason game 3. The compete level's good. The spirit's good. The locker room feels good. After 20, 30, 40 games of losing, 2 out of 3 or 2 out of 4 games every week, will that compete level stay?
Yeah.
Will they stay motivated to play hard and compete in every game? That, to me, is going to be the biggest challenge for Luke Richardson and his staff is, guys, I know this sucks. I know it's hard. I know you're not being rewarded for the effort you're putting out there, and we get it, but you've got to finish the season strong. Look, anyone who's ever been an athlete at any level knows how hard it is to be on a losing team. As badly as you want to play. I coach softball, and when the teams I've coached have been bad, it's tough. Mm-hmm. And coaches, and then when a team's good, it's really fun, and you look forward to it.
Yeah,
at any level, it's difficult. So that's going to be the thing to keep an eye on. Aside from the growth of the individual players, specifically the young guys, you're going to want to watch how is the compete level sustained and maintained through the course of 82 games.
Yeah, and it seems like Luke Richardson right off the bat knows that that's going to be a big challenge for him this season, among many challenges. But it really seems like, from what we've known about him as a coach, it seems like that is something that he is actually really good at, is keeping teams engaged, keeping the players spirits high when things aren't, going their way. So, yeah, I think it seems like the majority of players that you can kind of figure are probably going to be NHL regulars this year. Most of them, I think you can say that they're the character that they play with is something that Kyle Davidson has really tried to change with the roster moves he's done. The character that they play with has that like inherent competitiveness where you're not really going to have too many guys that may be looking for the door, even when things are hard. You have a guy like Jack Johnson who has gone through a lot of different challenges in his career with some teams that were pretty bad, and he's coming off of playing with the Stanley Cup champion Colorado Avalanche, and so I wonder what his mentality will be like if it's, the writing is on the wall. This year is going to not end up the way it did last year for him. But he could be in a position where if he continues to, have that spirit of like playing for a cup contender, he'll then eventually potentially be moved to a team that's going to be playing for a cup contender. And I think there are some players on this roster this year who maybe the motivation isn't necessarily, I need to, I need to stay engaged for this Blackhawks team. It could be I need to stay engaged so I'm continuing to put out good tape so other teams may be interested in me at the trade deadline or at some point through the season where maybe a more competitive team wants my services, and then it's just like that's my motivation.
Another element to
Could be a
that
situation.
is when you look at the veterans that Davidson brought in with Stalock and with Mrazek and with Jack Johnson, character.
Yeah.
Good locker room guys. And while we've seen Jonathan Toews pouting and we've seen Patrick Kane non-committal, those guys realize, Davidson, Richardson, we got to bring in some guys here that are going to be positive influences on this room and not get pissed off and not be like I think Jonathan Toews' personality is just so competitive that he can't accept losing under any circumstance, which is why we love him, right?
Yeah.
But it's going to be, if he's pouty and he's feeling crappy as year's going on, it's going to make things really, really tough in the locker room because that is the biggest presence in the room. That personality can bring down the entire thing. And I'm not saying he's doing it. I'm not saying he's going to do it, but it's something that I think Davidson has tried to do a good job of protecting them against by having Johnson and Stalock and guys who are in there, smiles on their face, happy to talk, happy to, they've had great careers. They know they're at the end, and they're just trying to enjoy what's left. I think having some positive message veteran, and Tyler Johnson, I think, is another one. He was brought in by he who shall not be named, but I think that's another guy who is a generally positive influence in the locker room. Those guys are going to be integral to keeping this thing afloat emotionally this season. So
and
that's going to be the thing to really pay attention to.
And Tyler Johnson at practice on Friday spoke about the mentality of the locker room compared to last season, and he said it was just like, obviously there's a lot of different reasons why it's better starting this year than it was at this point last season. But he said, it's just it's positive. Guys are in a better mood. There's more smiles. There's more, it's more jovial. Word of the day there. But I think Johnson is one of those guys, especially last year where he missed so much time because of injury. Just him personally being healthy, being able to be a part of the team, that's going to make a bigger impact on the locker room, and he'll be able to probably be more of a contributor this season than he was even when he was available last season, which is a good thing. And I think Luke Richardson has said that he knows that Jonathan Toews and Patrick Kane are the biggest voices, biggest names in the locker room. It's where a lot of people are going to look to for leadership in the locker room. But you also have guys like Connor Murphy and Seth Jones who are in interesting situations of their own. Where Seth Jones has said, "Well, yeah, I didn't sign up for a rebuild, but I'm here now, so I'm going to try and make the best of it." And Connor Murphy, who's been a long time leader in locker rooms, both in Arizona. And now here in Chicago, the last few years he's been here, but he's a guy who maybe he's here, maybe he's not. It's interesting to see. It will be very interesting to see where this team sits that first week of March, who's left on the roster and who are the leaders of that group at that time. Maybe Patrick Kane and or Jonathan Toews are still here. Seth Jones, all likelihood is still here, but it's just going to be very interesting to see who are the voices when this season ends.
Got some nice comments in the chat I wanted to address real quick. I know Region Rev and the Dash Law had some nice things to say. Dash Law says the crew's giving you their time on Saturday night. Hit the like button for them. Thank you. And Region Revs have huge props to the crew. Not only I lost it. There we go. Not only that, but during the off season they rolled. Look, we love doing this. Like we're not like, oh, I gotta go to work. I gotta go to the Hawks game. I gotta go talk about it. We love doing this, but really, if you are enjoying it and you're watching on YouTube, smash that like button for us. It's super helpful. If you just get in the habit of, if you're tuned into a CHGO show, as soon as you click the link, also hit that like button. It helps us all out big time. You know what else helps us out big time? We've got our next CHGO Bears tailgate coming up, November 6th, Bears Dolphins.
Oh, yeah.
You've probably seen on social media at CHGO_sports the video footage of our first tailgate, which I had high expectations for.
Yeah.
And then I arrived and I was like, oh my God, this is legit. Like food trucks and a DJ and giveaways. And there were 200 people there. And then more food came, and there were donuts and beer and booze, and it was just phenomenal. And that's the first one we ever did. It's only going to get better. Listen to this. $34 gets you 4 hours of a tailgate, unlimited food, unlimited drink, whatever you want. Opens at 8 a.m. It's on the corner of Michigan and Roosevelt. Prime.
It's a good
real
location,
estate. Walking distance from the stadium, Soldier Field. You can get there in a heartbeat. It's great. You don't need a ticket to the game to attend a tailgate. Just go to allchgo.com, purchase your tickets there. It's all run through Eventbrite, which is great and secure and wonderful. $34 for 4 hours of unlimited food and drink. Great food. It was a taco truck last time. Absolutely wonderful. We had breakfast tacos. Then as the day went on, normal lunch tacos.
Yep.
It was just such a wonderful time to hang out with everybody. The entire CHGO crew is out there. So make sure you join us at our next tailgate. Again, that is November 6th, Sunday, against the Dolphins, 8 a.m. till noon in the parking lot on Michigan and Roosevelt. Again, don't need a ticket to the game, but get that Game Time app and get yourself a ticket.
There you go.
And you will save big time with Game Time.
There were a few people that were checking out the Game Time app when we were wrapping things up with the tailgate. They were like, oh, well, that's a good price on a ticket.
Great prices. Yep.
Decided to go to the game. So, yeah, check that Game Time app out on November 6th. And, yeah, the ticket to the tailgate also gets you parking from right in that location to have parking for the game. Listen, you get 4 hours of a tailgate. You get your food and your booze of choice taken care of. You have a great atmosphere. You have we had people tossing around the football. We had a couple bags set up, DJ, all that good stuff. November 6th might need a little some outdoor heaters, but I'm sure that'll be that'll be no problem. And you get parking taken care of for $34. Like, that is a fantastic deal. You might spend $40 on parking alone trying to go to Soldier Field. So to get that, to get the entire tailgate experience and to hang out with us, it's a good time. So yeah, I will definitely be going out to the November 6th tailgate. Had a great time. Yeah.
After all that unlimited booze for 4 hours, you're going to need to clean up that gut.
Yeah, that was definitely necessary on Monday morning.
Tacos,
sure.
Beer. We have a barrel of Fireball.
Yeah, I stayed away from the Fireball. Fireball and me. We've had our time, but that time has passed. We nod hello and keep on walking past each other on the street. But yes, recovering from a good Sunday tailgate. You're going to need some athletic greens and the AG1 formula, designed to improve your gut health, optimize your immune system, and give you more natural energy. What helps you in curing those Sunday tailgate hangovers is good greens. And in AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens that help you start or even finish your day right. And if you have different dietary restrictions or follow different diets for whatever reason, if it's gluten-free or dairy-free or keto, vegan, whatever it is, it's easy to incorporate AG1 into those diets. It's a small once-a-day habit with big benefits, and it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition right now. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is go to athleticgreens.com/CHGO Blackhawks. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/CHGO Blackhawks to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance.
Yes, do that. All right, Greg's going to join us as soon as Luke Richardson speaks. He'll jump on after that. Let's get into the game a little bit more. We just did sort of get off on like a big picture, bit of a tangent, and lost focus on the game a little bit, which is fine because it's preseason and who cares. Lucas Reichel played in this game. I care. And you might have missed it. Not a ton from Reichel. He played 13:36. He had 2 shots on goal. He had 1 hit. He won 1 faceoff and lost 2. Kind of a non-factor. And I was talking to Greg as we were sitting there at the United Center, just saying, like, we still have not seen that game or that shift or that whatever where Lucas Reichel has taken control and has shown himself to be the level of prospect he is. Now, I want to make sure I'm being clear here. I'm not, like, changing my mind on Lucas Reichel. I still think he's going to be a really good player. But it just, listening to a couple things this week, I listened to Laz and Powers driving home from practice yesterday, and they are insistent that Lucas Reichel is going to Rockford to start the season. And as disappointing as that is as a fan, because you kind of want that cookie. You kind of want that young player to watch play for entertainment's sake, to have a glimpse into the future. But I remember this was a big conversation on the Score back when Chris Bryant was, they're talking about calling him up at the end of the year. And Theo Epstein and Dan McNeil is the one who used the term cookie. Give the fans a cookie. He said, we're not preparing. We don't want to give them a cookie. We want to give them a whole meal, right? We want to have the whole meal prepared before we put it out on the table. And I think that might be the wise move with Reichel, because you saw him with an opportunity as one of the more skilled Blackhawks to showcase that a little bit tonight. Had a great scoring chance set up by Kurashev, went to the backhand, put it on target. Ned just made a great save. Props to Lucas Reichel. That was really the only time I noticed him all night. Yeah. And a lot of that play was Philip Kurashev making a great play and a great read. I think, I'm still saying, if it was up to me, he would play this entire season in Chicago. I don't know what more there is to prove in Rockford, but I get the patience thing, and maybe, just maybe, they want to have him go and dominate in Rockford a little bit. Then when they call him up, that's it. No more yo-yo, no more up and down. Once he's in Chicago, and that's the end of it. Maybe that's the right thing to do. Yeah,
I am on the same boat of, I don't think there's anything more he needs to prove at the AHL level. I think he's proven through last year as a teenager being a point-per-game player that, hey, I'm fine here. You know, I'm good. I'm probably ready for the next level. And, yeah, I mean, I think we've talked about it all training camp, and I think it's still it's still what we're kind of holding on to, is that Lucas Reichel would kind of have to play himself out of the top 13 forwards on this team to not be on the opening night roster. But yeah, I mean, the more the more you read about it, you hear about it, see about it from other people. Talking with Luke Richardson, it kind of seems like he's not really as committed to being like, yeah, like, give me Lucas Reichel to have on this team.
Yeah.
It really does seem like, the plan is trending towards him starting the year in Rockford. And if it were up to me, he would start the season and play the entire season in Chicago, because I've said it before, you don't know exactly how much time you still have with Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews. Yeah. And I think on the ice and off the ice, it would be beneficial for Lucas Reichel to be around those two players.
Great point.
To play with two guys that are, these generational pillars of the organization and still pretty highly skilled, especially Patrick Kane, and to be able to kind of bring him along to the NHL level with those two guys there, as well as a few other players that would be beneficial to play with. But to the point you just made about dominating at the AHL level, if they're going to shelter him from the majority of the suck this year at the NHL level and say, hey, help this Rockford team be really good and be a playmaker, a offensive play driver, lead the team in points or whatever at some point or all season, and help some of these younger players build confidence. And then, maybe in January or February or March, you head up to the NHL, finish the NHL season, and then, who knows what happens there if he gets pulled back for the AHL playoffs, if Rockford does that well, who knows. But I think there's value to that of a young player being able to continue to dominate at that level. And we talk about it a bunch with like these junior players, like Kevin Korchinski, for example, going back to the WHL, going back to Seattle and being just an absolute monster in the WHL. Great. That's great for him. There's no need for him to hang around on this NHL roster, which could have happened under a previous general manager. Mm-hmm. So if Reichel is going to go down to Rockford, if he's going to start the year there, and if he's, another point per game pace or better, that's great. Build up his confidence, build up the confidence of the Ice Hogs around him. And then at some point though, you still have to get him up to the Blackhawks, because if you pull him up in like late March or April for 15 games or something, what's the point of that?
Yeah, you want to play in something that you can at least, like, if you squint real hard, you can call it meaningful.
Right.
Like before they're completely eliminated, before they're completely out of the picture, which isn't going to be long, honestly.
And before the roster is decimated too.
Yeah.
Like, don't be like, oh, we just traded, in this last month, we've traded half dozen players, and now we're going to pull people up from Rockford. It's like, all right, well,
yeah.
Now you're basically going half Ice Hogs.
Yeah. But if we're looking at like Christmas for Reichel,
sure,
I'd be on board with that.
That'd be fine. That's
then don't just keep jerking him around. Like,
right.
Call him up, leave him up.
That's the thing. Yeah, you don't want. He doesn't need to go do the back and forth down I-90. Once he's here, keep him here.
We should have known that he was not destined for the Blackhawks when we go into the locker room at Fifth Third, and Lucas Reichel's locker.
He's at the makeshift locker.
He's got like the iron wire shelf you buy at Costco. That you keep in your garage. That's his locker. Yeah, he does not have a proper locker.
That was round pick. They're not giving him a real locker.
It might be one of those. We got to send this kid a message and let him know, where he stands.
Knock him down
kind of
a peg.
thing.
Yeah.
Not that he's a ego or anything, but I'm like, I got the hiccups. Jeez, I just realized, like, wait a minute. Lucas Reichel is sitting in a wrought iron locker.
Yeah.
Where Buddy Robinson's got his own thing.
Right next to Garrett Mitchell.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting.
That might show you the idea of where he's going to be if his locker, his makeshift locker, is right next to the Ice Hogs captain's makeshift locker.
Yeah, and Dr. Horror Show, who's been active on the chat, thank you. He says, why are they sending down Korchinski? I understand leave him to develop, but he was flowing well. I understand it's preseason, but the kid has confidence. I think he can stay afloat. See, this is the thing. Yeah. And I've talked to several scouts. Actually, I started having these conversations about Henry Jokiharju years ago. I started reaching out to scouts being like, why are we not really seeing a jump in his game, right? Like, he's this first-round pick. He's supposed to be this really good young defenseman. And you're like, he is so desperately just trying to hold his own and not fail and not make mistakes that he's barely staying afloat. And that's the word you use, Dr. Horror Show, is I think he can stay afloat. The idea for Korchinski is to come up here and dominate and come up here and be ready. Remember, Duncan Keith, Brent Seabrook played multiple AHL seasons before coming to Chicago.
Needed time.
There's no reason for Kevin Korchinski to come up here, and this is another cookie situation, right? Like, prepare the whole meal. Make sure when Korchinski comes up, he's ready to go. He's going to play junior this year. Maybe at the end of the year, he comes up and plays a couple games for Rockford, right? Or maybe they throw him a bone like they did with Vlasic and give him a few NHL games, hopefully not to burn the contract.
Yeah.
But, like, I know it's hard. As a fan, I'm excited. I see Korchinski like, damn, the kid looks awesome. I've said on every show so far that I think he's already one of their 6 best defensemen.
Yeah.
I believe that. But just let him go light up the Western Hockey League, be a superstar, win an MVP, whatever it takes for him to have a great season in Seattle, and then evaluate. There's no need to rush any of these guys. This season at the NHL level is basically meaningless. And I think when you see the opening night lineup, it's not going to be as young as we imagine.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we're going to see
thinking about that.
Buddy Robinson and
Brett
little
Seney.
more veteran guys. Yeah, maybe Brett Seney is a guy. Yeah, I mean, Cole Gutman is a guy who might and there's still prospects, but I think it's going to be at Whistle. It's going to be Reese Johnson. Dylan Secura's got a shot at making the NHL roster.
He's a bubble guy, yeah.
Yeah, so it might not be, Taves, Kane, and a bunch of kids.
Yeah.
This might be as veteran as they can make it as they ease these kids up. And as frustrating as that might be as a fan, it's probably the right way to handle things. Mm-hmm. We need to get ourselves out of the mindset of instant gratification, because when we look at Doc and Boquist and Jokiharju, all three of those guys had their career stunted by being rushed.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and you look at what, even with a guy like Boquist, what he did last season with Columbus in a role that kind of fit him more. Like, he wasn't the number one guy. He was a middle pairing guy, offensive minded, played on the second power play unit, and had a pretty decent season. But it took him, a few seasons of kind of getting pushed around at the NHL level, trying to be a top pair defenseman well before he was prepared to do so here in Chicago, before he actually was treated properly in the lineup where he needed to be. And yeah, I think, the rushing of prospects, it's something that, we all get excited about, third overall pick, Kirby Dach. He's big. He's got all this skill. He should be able to translate right away. It's not always the case. Dylan Strome was a third overall pick, and he toiled away with the Coyotes for a while before getting a slight career resurgence with Chicago twice. And then, I just think we preach patience. The team is preaching patience. And yeah, I think with that in mind, it really does seem like as this training camp is going on, as this roster is starting to kind of take shape, players that are going to be here, going to not be here, going to be in Rockford, going to be in juniors, whatever it is, you're starting to see some of the potential guys coming through coming into frame. And yeah, it doesn't seem like it's going to be a very exciting roster with we can watch this young guy develop and this young guy develop. It's going to kind of be like, well, here's the couple of the best players that we still have, and then here's a bunch of guys who may or may not be here in a year or two, and you're just kind of throwing something out there, because the instant gratification that we're all wanting and hoping for is who they are tanking for this season, is who the goal at the end of this season is the instant gratification in a guy like Connor Bedard, who me and Kevin were talking, during the game tonight, kind of about, players that could actually jump in and make an immediate impact. And I said to Kevin, I was just like, Connor Bedard at 17 years old right now could probably play in the NHL and be just absolutely fine. And not in a Boquist, Jokiharju fine, in a oh yeah, he might put up 50 points.
That blew my mind, by the way. That blew my mind.
Oh, absolutely. And so and he's gonna have this whole season to continue to develop, on the ice, physical maturity, whatever. And whoever drafts him, most likely first overall in June, hopefully Chicago, he will be on the opening night roster. You can bet on that.
I'm playing a game here.
Yes.
I'm looking at the roster. And I have 13 forwards.
Okay.
Ready? Athanasiou, Blackwell, Domi, Entwistle, Johnson, Kane,
Johnson,
Kachuk, Kara, Kurashev,
10,
Lafferty, Radish, Robinson, Taves. Is that 14?
Did I miscount? That's either 14 or I miscounted.
Did I name a single kid?
No, not a kid. Younger guys. Entwistle, Kurashev, they're 22, 23.
I think that is your opening night.
That sounds right. It's not exciting, but it sounds right.
You know who I'd really like to see start the year here? Slavin.
Sure.
I mean, but I know they're so valuing the Rockford season, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
Right? Like, let these dudes play in meaningful games, and Slavin would be a huge part of that down there.
He would be likely playing in the top 6 forwards group, probably the number 2 center, I would say, if just thinking off the top of my head of the roster that's in Rockford. But, yeah, I think he would be in a role like that, and he would play meaningful minutes. He would play penalty kill, power play. But I mean, he's a guy that's on the bubble. He played a couple of games last season and didn't look so bad. Made an impact on the penalty kill, and you see it in this preseason. That's really where he's going to make a lot of headway in being a NHL regular. Is being a guy who can be reliable on the penalty kill. And for some of these guys, some of these prospects, sometimes the young guys have to figure out, like, okay, what do I do best? What is my game best suited for at the NHL level? Like some of these, a lot of these guys have been, as they've grown up and matured through their game, the best players on their team, the most, the player that the puck is always going to. Mm-hmm. And then when you get to, the top junior leagues or the top college programs, or you get to the AHL, everyone else has done that as well in their young careers. So then they have to realize, okay, where do I fit in here? And when you get to the NHL level, sometimes these guys really have to hone in on one thing that they're really good at. And it might not be scoring 50 goals. It might be, you know what, I can skate the hell out of I can skate really well, and I can play tough minutes on the penalty kill, and that's what's going to keep me in the NHL. And Slavin, I think, is a guy that has that ability and has the ability to recognize that and hone in on that skill.
All right. He is with us. Greg Boysen from the United Center. Luke Richardson kept him waiting. I hope you gave him a piece of your mind, Greg.
Oh, muted?
Can't hear you.
Greg, are you muted?
Yeah, he's still muted on his end.
Are you muted?
Oh,
come on, Grandpa.
The old mute button. Let's see here.
It's the preseason for all of us.
Yeah,
that's right.
We're all working out the kinks here.
Here, we can go back to him in a little bit.
Yeah, we'll get that sorted out.
But yeah, I don't mean to potentially steal any of Greg's thunder. But as we're talking about roster moves and player movement here, Blackhawks officially announcing a couple of roster moves. Jackson Stauber, goaltender, is headed to the Rockford Ice Hogs.
Can you hear me, Kevin?
The following players have been released from their PTOs. That is defenseman Adam Clendenning and goaltender Dylan Wells. Both of those two are signed to AHL contracts, so they're going to the Ice Hogs. And Nolan Allen and Ethan Del Mastro have been sent to their junior teams.
Del Mastro looked good tonight, man.
That kid,
He's good.
We've said it before, he is NHL strong right now.
Yep. All right, Greg's there. Hi, Greg.
Hello, boys.
All right.
Here we are.
What did we learn? What happened? What happened?
We learned that preseason hockey is difficult to watch at times, and the sun comes up tomorrow. Yes, there was a little delay in the presser because of Luke Richardson was crushing the dreams of young men, sending them back to the minors. And the worst part of the job, as he said this morning, he says it sucks, even for the guys that know that, it's not in the cards this year. It's still hard to give them that news. So, but overall, a fairly positive game, I can say. Like, at least there were some things to take away. Alex Stalock for 40 minutes played really good. Luke Richardson said that it was a good confidence builder for a guy that's barely played any hockey in the last year. So it's good for him to get some confidence rolling. I really don't think you can't really pin too many of those goals on him. That third one, you might say he should have had, but it looked like maybe looking at it a second time, it looks like maybe Raymond kind of duffed that shot, so it didn't get to him as fast as he thought it was going to get there. Fooled him with the old changeup. But the first two goals were both products of the Blackhawks not able to get the puck out of the zone. And Luke Richardson talked about that and said tonight was a prime example of why we want to stay out of our own end as much as possible and get the puck out quickly and move the puck up ice, because when you stay hemmed in your own end for long periods of time, eventually you get tired, you have lapses, you have mistakes, and the puck is in your own net, and that's what we saw tonight.
Yeah, we were talking, you and I at the game, and Mario and I on the show, sort of saying, like, this is what Hawks fans should get used to seeing. You know, you'll see them compete really hard, play really hard, and then just either not have the firepower or run out of gas from trying to stay in the game. I think this was a pretty good example of what a lot of Hawks games will look like this year.
Yeah, and it's what we saw Tuesday night against the Blues, too.
Yeah.
It was a lot of the same thing. It was, you were there for 40 minutes, and then in the third period, those little mistakes, all of a sudden you can't get away with them anymore. The Hawks don't have the talent currently on this roster to get away with making the same mistake more than once. It's going to bite them more times than not, and we saw that tonight. But besides the Stalock, I think the another very positive thing to take out of this game was how good the penalty kill was. We were seeing that aggressive style with that Luke Richardson wants to play. You're seeing the pressure up at the top of the blue line. That first kill, Isaac Phillips made a really nice play, reading a pass right at the blue line, got it out of the zone, and it led to Josiah Slavin doing what he does best, and that's forechecking shorthanded and keeping the puck down at their end of the ice for a long period of time. And Reese Johnson was very noticeable on the PK, coming out into the neutral zone. Luke Richardson said skill players want room on the ice to make plays, and if we don't give it to them, they get very uncomfortable and they can't make those plays. So that was the best looking the PK has looked so far in the preseason, and I think that's a plus going forward. It's going to be a different approach, and there's going to be times where maybe that aggressiveness, maybe getting a little too aggressive and all of a sudden it's behind your goalie, but for the most part, I like what I've seen on that PK so far.
Yeah, Detroit 0 for 4 on the power play, and not a ton of great chances on them either. The Hawks doing a good job on the PK. Do we have injury updates on either Boris Kachuk or Reese Johnson?
Yes. Reese Johnson is fine. Richardson said he was actually more upset at the referee for missing the call than he was hurt. And Johnson had a very noticeable game. He was getting and mixing it up. He gave David Perron a shot after the whistle.
Good.
In front of the net.
Whack.
He earned brownie points there for sure. And Kachuk going to be reevaluated in the morning. He didn't have an update. Didn't sound great. He wasn't exactly sure what the nature of it was. He thought it was from a slash. The shift before he actually left the ice. So he got hurt, then took another shift, was laboring in that shift, took a big hit too on that shift, and then left the ice. So he said that Boris has a very high threshold for pain, so him leaving the game is not a good sign. So we'll hopefully get an update on that in the morning when he gets reevaluated by team doctors.
You told me a little story about the pregame today about Jonathan Toews and Patrick Sharp. Can you? There were so many chances I wanted to talk about it because our buddy No Roids Just Rage said Toews is looking frustrated already. Sorry to say it. At least before the game, he seemed to be in decent spirits. What did you see?
Yeah, Toews talked to us after the game, and it was a, typical Jonathan Toews presser. Everything.
Riveting.
Yeah, I mean, he always sounds like, it's the end of the world, so that's who he is. But you got to see a side of him this morning, and I caught it. Patrick Sharp showed up to morning skate after the team was already on the ice, and Jonathan Toews saw him from the ice and kind of waved, and Sharp kind of like did a little raise the roof sign to him. So he came over to the glass, Toews did, and like mimicked that he was blowing like to fog up the glass and did like a little heart sign on the glass towards him. I thought that was real kind of funny. It was nice to see some hey, he's not a hockey robot 24 hours a day. He can smile and have a lighthearted moment. So that was fun to see. Obviously, being part of those teams is a special bond with those guys. And how was Sharpie on the broadcast? I've heard good things.
Yeah, I mean, he was really good. I mean, he's done it before a few times, but this will be the first opportunity to do it with some regularity. And yeah, it just really just seemed natural. Doesn't seem, watching the game, we talk about how missing Eddie Olczyk is going to be tough for Chris Vosters, is going to be tough for fans watching the game. With Troy Murray and with Patrick Sharp, it really feels like the knowledge of the game, you're not going to lose anything there. Those are two of the guys in the NHL that have done everything, experienced everything, and are going to be able to talk it out in a broadcast format to where fans can ingest it and understand what's going on. What I think is great for Sharp is that he does it and it seems so effortless. Like he just seems like he just shows up and is just like, yeah, I'm just doing this thing now. Like this is what I do. Like I used to play hockey, now I talk about hockey. Like it just seems like he has that energy that he brings to it where it's not too high, but it's also like you know that he's taking it seriously, but in a way that is still like relatable and enjoyable for that matter. I was really happy with his first broadcast of the season, and yeah, I mean it's going to take time for him and Vosters and Colby Cohen to get some chemistry, but it already seemed like they were able to have good conversations, good analytical conversations, and also conversations where you can be like, that's a funny story.
Shared a trip to the men's room with Chris and Sharpie today before the game.
Highlight of the year.
They were joking about having Vosters drop the puck in Milwaukee because he's a Wisconsin guy, and Sharp said, "Do not leave me in the booth alone." So I thought that was funny, and you could sense like a little bit of nerves from Sharpie, like in the hallway in the concourse. I know in the intermissions he kind of like walked out of the booth to just catch his breath a little bit. It is scary. I know, like I've never called an NHL game, but like we've been on the air before. Mm-hmm. I've been on radio when Stanley Cups have been won. It is scary to do that. No matter how much experience you have, I still get nervous before we go on. It just, it never goes away. It's live. Live is live. So it's good to see that he was so good. I got here for the third and I would not shut up. I had a lot to tell Mario today. So I missed a lot of the third period broadcast audio. But everyone seems really happy with the broadcast today, which is great news. That's fantastic. So
I had a fanboy moment with Patrick Sharp this morning too, while leaving the post-morning skate pressers. Was walking up to the elevator and he was standing in the hallway talking with Chris Vosters and Colby Cohen, I'm sure, planning out their great broadcast tonight. And he says, "Hey, buddy, how you doing?" I'm like, "Oh my God, Patrick Sharp just called me buddy. That's my weekend is made." Like it was total like, yeah. I was like, all right, I get it now. I get it.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool to see him around. You talk about like guys who look like they can still play. Greg, we both saw Rotisserie Chelios today walking around the press box, and he looks like he can still play. Patrick Sharp too.
He looks like a baseball mitt, but he also looks like he could still play 20 minutes a night.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does. But I think he knows it too.
He doesn't care. He's beyond caring at this point. He's Chris F. and Chelios. Deal with it.
Yeah. He won. He won at life, and we did not. All right, should we get to our 4 stars and let you go?
Sure.
All right. Do I have to go first again? Is this the thing we're doing now all the time?
Yeah, we go in the order of the caricatures. Oh, then... well, there they are.
There they are. I'm going to go with Jujhar Khaira for many reasons. Led the team in shots today at last check. I've just been really impressed with his preseason in general and with his practices. He looks a step faster. You can tell that he has been working his ass off to return to hockey and looks really, really in shape. He has been very noticeable in front of the net. He's got a lot of patience. And I think this year, as we earlier sort of projecting the roster, it's going to be more veteran laden than we probably expect. He's going to get some decent opportunity, maybe some power play time for Jujhar Khaira. And I think he's got a little more skill than he gets credit for. Liked his game tonight. I liked what I've seen from him so far this year. So he gets an honorary 4th star of the game for me. By the way, the actual 3 stars tonight were number 3, Moritz Seider, number 2, Jacob Verana, and number 1, Lucas Raymond. So all 3 were Red Wings. So all the Hawks are available.
Yeah, all the Hawks are available. Yeah, I mean, with Kara, I'm just happy that he is healthy enough to be on the ice and yeah, confident enough that he's able to go out there and play his game. It's great to see. Greg, you're up.
Yeah, well, for 40 minutes, Alex Stalock was the number one star of the game, but then they had that rough third period. But I'm going to give my shout out to Boris Kachuk. Unfortunately, his night ended with an injury, but he was a guy that we talked about Tuesday night when we were here for the Blues game about, man, like, oh, there he is. We didn't notice him. And for a guy that shouldn't be guaranteed a roster spot, he needed to come out and play better. And he was very noticeable, especially in that first period. First shift of the game, he's on the forecheck. He's taking out guys behind the net. Second shift, he uses his forecheck again and creates a scoring chance from within 5 feet. Had a few hits. He was all over the ice. He played his game, the game that we saw those first few games after the trade from Tampa that we saw from him. We were like, hey, this guy could be an effective fourth liner. And then it kind of faded in and out. We didn't see it at all in the first preseason game, but he stepped it up and he played exactly what we want to see from him. And that's encouraging going forward. But he needs to do that every night. Now, hopefully he's okay. We don't know what kind of injury, but you know, when he is healthy and back in the lineup, that's what he needs to do every night. Otherwise, he's just a guy. But tonight he was effective, and hats off to him. Hopefully he's okay.
Yeah, I mentioned it with Mario. He did look really good and had a great bounce back from the Blues game. Maybe the fact that he took a shift and then realized, like, okay, this is worse than I thought. Hopefully that's a good sign. Don't want to speculate, obviously.
Right.
And hopefully they got better doctors than the Miami Dolphins. But it was really encouraging to see, especially in the first. He was all over the place, laying checks that were rattling the boards and tying up sticks and lifting sticks and generating scoring chances. That's what you want to see. And, I hope that he's okay because, man, that would be rough to, you talk about like the mental health toll. You have your best period of the preseason, and all of a sudden you're hurt, and you're all downhill. That sucks. So hopefully, hopefully he's all right.
Hopefully not too bad. Yeah. And my selection was someone off the ice, but Patrick Sharp, welcome back. Welcome back to the team, to the booth. Like we just mentioned, it really seemed like a seamless transition for him to be the color analyst. I think he did a great job. I think a lot of fans are happy that he's in that role, even if it is just for half of the games. But I think he's going to do a good job. Like I said, I think him and Chris are. It's going to take some time, but I think they're gonna hit their stride. And Chris too. He brings the energy no matter if it's a preseason game, regular season game, or if it's Big Ten volleyball. Like he brings the energy. So he sounded pretty good today. Patrick Sharp, he's the fourth star. I think my fourth star on Wednesday night was Dylan Secura, so I'm going with the welcome back theme. I think
there you go.
I was going to give it to Adam Clendenny, but he just got sent down. So
well, he might come back.
I had that one in the back pocket.
Greg, are people having fights with plates behind you? Like, is there a Greek wedding happening?
They are
Charlie
covering
get
the
engaged?
ice. There's forklifts and metal plates, and yes, they are making way for something else besides ice behind me.
Tell him to be careful on the chin and neck area.
Is Harry Styles starting his month-long stay?
I think actually Iron Maiden is here first.
I think that's like 2 weeks out.
They got to set up for Eddie.
Hey, Iron Maiden, nice.
Hell
But
yeah.
I do have to say, with Patrick Sharp hanging around now, and I'm not, I'm not contributing to this myself, but I do have to say that the Blackhawks might have the most handsome overall media core up in the press box across the NHL. Anytime you get Sharpie, you automatically go from like a 6.5 to a 9. But I drag it down a 1.5. But overall, we're a pretty good looking bunch up here.
Hey, don't get my wife started on Troy Murray. My wife has the biggest crush on Troy Murray, always has, and
He's ruggedly handsome.
Anytime he comes up, she's like, "He's hot." I'm like, "Stop it, stop that," because eventually, the way I operate is at some point, Hope and Troy are going to be in the same room together. And I'm going to say something and make it real uncomfortable for everybody.
There you go.
Because I love to do that. It's my favorite thing to do. All right, Greg. Safe journeys. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow in Milwaukee, which is Algonquin for the good land. If you're going up to Milwaukee for the game tomorrow, we're going to be in the Deer District. We'll be tweeting out exactly where we're at, so make sure you're following.
Drop a pin.
Yeah, we'll let you know where to find us, but come say hi. We'll probably be out there for like between 4 and 6, just hanging out, taking in the scenery and all that stuff, and come say hello.
It's going to be fun. Can't wait to see you up there, boys.
All right, dude. Have a good night. Thank
Greg.
you.
All right.
Greg Boysen, live from the United Center. That's what the postgame looks like. If you're new to CHGO Blackhawks, if you joined us in the summer, thank you. But this is what every postgame show is going to be. Home games, Mario or Greg will be reporting from each of them with fresh, press conference news. So this is what it's going to be great. It's going to be a fun season. Yep, it's going to be long. There's going to be some losses. Yeah, we got a lot of losses. But it's going to be the post games will be fun. We promise to keep you entertained. And if you missed it this week, our rebuild reports got published on allchgo.com. This is a project that Mario and Greg are tag teaming, keeping track of all the prospects the Blackhawks have. If you're not already a member at allchgo.com, now is the perfect time. The Bears are underway. The Hawks are started. The Bulls are about to start. All the winter sports are coming back. Go to allchgo.com. Become a member. You'll get a free T-shirt, some of the dope merch we've got on our website. You see the CHGO Blackhawks shirt there. We've got the Justin Fields sliding through the water design there. If you ordered one of those, they just started shipping out, so you should be getting those soon.
Yes.
And I know we've got some really cool Hawks designs in the works, including Marion Hossa design or two.
Yeah, working
in preparation for his retirement. So join allchgo.com. Join our community. That's what we're trying to do here. Not only do you get a free T-shirt, you get access to all of our great written content, access to our Discord, where during a lot of the road games, we'll be sort of live tweeting along in the Discord, answering your questions. So it's great. It's a wonderful value. All of our written pieces are ad-free. You're not going to have to deal with pop-ups and audio playing from God knows where. It's nice and clean, totally worth the investment. And really, if you love what we're doing here, it is a great way to help us out. It keeps us going. It keeps us sustained and keeps CHGO here for you throughout, hopefully, the next couple decades.
Throughout the ends of time.
Until I die of natural causes on this set. That's the goal.
That's the goal.
Jay, just wheel me off.
We'll need another.
Just dump me off the balcony. Dart guy will get me.
Yeah, Dart guy. He'll be on cleanup duty.
Yeah. So hey, if that's how I go out, I'll go out a happy man. So anyway, if you're in the YouTube now, smash that like button if you've not already. If you're listening on the traditional podcast, really want to help us out, a 5-star Apple Podcast review goes a really, really long way. Hit those 5 stars. Say, hey, great Hawks coverage, guys. Thanks. Boom. Whatever. It takes 2 sentences, but those 5-star reviews help out big time. So if you don't have the money to throw at us for allchgo.com, 5-star reviews, any podcast you love, send them some love on the Apple Podcast reviews. All right.
I want to note for tomorrow. So we will not be doing a post-game show tomorrow night after the game in Milwaukee. Monday's show will serve as a bit of a post-game for that.
Right.
I'll probably also have some other things to talk about. I did want to mention from our friend Ben Pope in his piece today from the Chicago Sun-Times, talked to some residents in Milwaukee that are excited for the Blackhawks to be there, playing the game at the Pfizer Forum tomorrow against the Minnesota Wild. Some interesting notes from Ben in that piece. Besides the season ticket holders for the Blackhawks and the Milwaukee Bucks, who had first access to tickets, 81% of the general population ticket sales, Wisconsin residents.
Cool.
And I believe the number was 11% Illinois residents. So, we were talking earlier this week about, what was going to be the reception for the game. Was it just going to be a bunch of people from Illinois and Chicago coming up and watching the game? It seems like Wisconsin Hawks fans are going to come out in droves.
It's great,
which is going to be a lot of fun to see. And again, if you're out there in Milwaukee tomorrow in the Deer District, come and say hi. We'll be out there. We'll be hanging out, enjoying the Deer District and all the fun offerings that it provides. The other thing that was interesting from Ben is that the Blackhawks are looking to make a home preseason game at a different location a thing. And some cities that were mentioned were South Bend and Rockford, and was Indianapolis? I think it might have been Indianapolis. Yeah. So something to keep an eye on for future preseason games in non-Chicago markets, but still Blackhawks adjacent, obviously, with the Indy Fuel in Indianapolis, Rockford Ice Hogs in Rockford, and South Bend, not too far away. We'll actually be going to South Bend in November to watch some of the Blackhawks prospects. So
can't wait.
Yeah, just wanted to make those notes about tomorrow's game, and yeah, looking forward to it.
Yes, thank you. I forgot to do that, so
no problem.
Thank you for jumping on that before we wrapped up. All right. We done? We're good?
We're done.
Good to go? All right.
3-0 loss. We're done. We're out.
Yeah. Thanks to Kevin for running the show today. We appreciate it. Thank you all for staying up late with us. We'll talk to you Monday, 1:30 from right here at the CHGO studios. For Mario, who's right there, and Greg, who's driving somewhere, I'm Jay. This has been the CHGO Blackhawks podcast.